Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to look at a teaser that has come out for uh, a new show that is coming from Genndy Tartakovsky. And anybody who was a 90s kid or, early 2000s, that type of thing, if you remember most of the cartoons that were on at that time, most of the really good ones anyway, were produced by Genndy Tartakovsky. You saw stuff like Dexter's Lab, um, Samurai Jack, which was a little bit later on, and many other properties that he produced, as well as stuff like Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, among others. So he's had his fingerprints over a lot of people's childhoods, especially from a cartoon perspective. I personally really love Dexter's Lab, and my absolute favorite is Samurai Jack. And he's putting a new series out that's going to be going on Adult Swim this fall, called Primal, and we hadn't really seen much about it. I don't know if it was announced or if this is the general announcement of it, but basically he has created this series, and they put out a teaser, and the teaser it's about a minute long. I should say that the actual footage of it is probably about 45 seconds. But it looks really good. I like the animation. It's nice and crisp, just like most Genndy Tartakovsky animation is on his projects. Um, the colors are really good. I like the colors, and the action and stuff is brutal. And really, it's kind of interesting as you watch the trailer. It starts out very mild, very kind of like, okay, we're just getting some scenery and stuff like that. They show some mountains. Then you see the main character, who I don't know exactly what his name. I don't know what his name is. I haven't read too much about the project aside from watching the teaser. Um, the teaser did get me excited for this, but looking at the actual footage itself, going forward from what I just mentioned before, we see like the main character is essentially a caveman. This is supposed to take place in some kind of a either it's some kind of a prehistoric world where dinosaurs and carnivorous mammals and cavemen and all existed at the same time, as opposed to how it actually went, where dinosaurs came first and then mammals and then cavemen and stuff like that later on. But um, to look at it, it seems like it's fairly interesting. I don't think there's going to be a lot of speech in this, obviously, because it's mainly with a caveman, and most of it, the other things that we see are just animals. Um, I think this is going to be very much a physically portrayed series as opposed to a verbal one, because it doesn't really. Again, we're following a singular character. I feel like this is gonna go somewhat along the same lines as Samurai Jack, where he doesn't say a lot of words most of the time. He doesn't have a ton of dialogue usually. Um, but this might even be less than that. This might just be grunts and stuff like that. This could be totally atmospheric. But the thing is that the visuals of it are so great. You could freeze a lot of the frames just in that teaser, and that would be a perfect. That would be almost like a perfect picture. You could use it as a comic panel. You could use it as a painting in some cases. And this is stuff that we saw kind of perfected with Samurai Jack, and now we're moving on to another project. And I think that's really actually why we're getting this right now, is because Samurai Jack season 5 kind of revitalized Tartakovsky. He kind of fell off the map a little bit after the fourth season of Samurai Jack, which is the last one that came out before they kind of picked up their hiatus recently. I think a year and a half ago was when we were coming out with season 5. So uh, he kind of just he fell into the background stuff. He did some writing and things like that for other cartoons and other stuff like that. He wrote Hotel Transylvania 3 recently, but or he's credited as a writer on it. So you could go a few different ways with that, because he's essentially he's coming back out. That movie, not the movie, the Samurai Jack season 5 did a lot to kind of boost him back up in terms of people, and kind of bring back his audience. And I think the success of that is what has led now to this new series that is premiering on Adult Swim. Because this is the other thing: is Samurai Jack season 5 was the first time that Tartakovsky really experimented with stuff that was rated more towards adults. in terms of the level of violence and the storytelling, because obviously Samurai Jack season 5 was made for the people that watched the show back in the early 2000s. Uh, who are now older now, in their mid to late 20s. It's something more to cater to them at this age as opposed to catering towards, kids that are still, 12 to 14 years old. Uh, but he did a really good job at the updating of that, and I love the violence in Samurai Jack season 5 because it balances it really out with the tone. It's a lot darker. Jack himself is a lot darker, and we see that in the show, throughout the show, especially the early episodes of that season. Um, but ultimately, the whole thing really kind of propelled Tartakovsky into this kind of new area that he hadn't been in before, or he hadn't worked in before, at least, really, which is kind of the adult or the mature animation area, where that's where a lot of animes and stuff are, in terms of where their age range is supposed to be, stuff that's made for more for adults. Again, that's kind of a cornered anime market, but Tartakovsky, I think, could easily break into that. I think he already has, actually, with Samurai Jack season 5. So Primal looks to be picking that up to some extent, where again, there's a decent amount of violence, especially near the end of the teaser, and it's pretty brutal. It's not. They don't really try to dress it up at all or try to make it look less bloody. There's all this blood and gore and all this other stuff. So there's a bunch of just this the look and everything like that, where you see there's a scene near the very end of the teaser where the caveman character is stabbing what is presumably a dinosaur that is latched onto his leg, and it's very bloody. But again, this is something that I think Tartakovsky's he's moving into a new area in terms of where he can explore. He's kind of worn out the kid shows for the most part, where you see stuff. When you saw the stuff like Dexter's Lab, which was aimed more for younger kids, and then you move forward and forward and forward until you get to the point where you're at Samurai Jack, where you're dealing with young teenagers. So the next logical step for him would be to move into some kind of adult animation, and somewhat full time. And I'm kind of excited to see this series. I like Tartakovsky's work. It's more artful. As it's gone on, it's become more and more artful and more abstract, as opposed to being just as straightforward as you can be. And again, a lot of that changed with Samurai Jack, which is a really pivotal series for him. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it, please. Even if you're an adult, it's a great series. And season 5 is especially great, even though I think it maybe could have benefited from having 2 more episodes in it. I know this has kind of devolved into me fanboying about Samurai Jack, but bear with me. The Primal teaser, I think it looks good. This has me a little bit excited. I'm interested in watching it, which isn't more than can be said about most animated things that I see these days. So I'll link the teaser in the description if you guys want to go and watch it. I urge you to check it out because I think it looks really good. And if you're a fan of Samurai Jack and some of other Tartakovsky's other work, then I would definitely recommend it. Um, so put in the comments what you think. Are you excited for this? Do you not care? Is it something that's kind of on the fence for you? You're not really sure about it. Hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?